Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the legend goes that Ed Snyder was outside of Boston Garden looking at a line of Bruins fans lining up to purchase tickets to see a terrible Bruins team and thought it would be a good business opportunity. And, now it's probably his greatest love.
Yeah, and, I guess when you wrote this piece and looking back at this team, when did really, what were the first couple of years like for the franchise, and when did it really catch on to become, the passion that the Flyers have become? I mean, the Flyers have to have one of the more passionate fan bases in the NHL, but it wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't. I mean, this team started its first couple of years bringing kids out and hoping that their parents would come back and purchase season tickets or, purchase single game tickets or whatever the case may be. They kind of grew from there. Once they started winning, that bred a lot of, fanfare also. And then, when you have maybe stigma's not the right word, but when you develop an identity like they did with the Broad Street Bullies, that'll build a fan base also. And obviously things have been going really strong in terms of the fan base since they won 2 cups in 74 and 75.
Dave, what was one of the main reasons why Philadelphia was able to get a franchise in Philadelphia? I mean, it wasn't, Philadelphia at that time, as we mentioned, it wasn't a popular thing. Many people looked at the team and didn't pay a lot of attention to it. Why did the Flyers, why were they born? Why were they able to get a team in Philadelphia?
Well, they ended up getting the bid over Baltimore, which was the odds-on favorite because Baltimore didn't want to build a new stadium. And Jerry Woolman and Ed Snyder said, "We'll build you a stadium." That was the contingency of the bid, and they promised to do that. And a lot happened between February 9th of 1966 and 1967 when the team actually came to be. There was a lot of changes there, a lot of tumultuous times between Woolman and Snyder, but they ended up getting the Spectrum built. And they may have done it a little quick. The roof blew off in the first couple of years, but they patched it up, and everything's been great since. Yeah,
and here's a team now that is playing the Anaheim Ducks tonight. And February 29th will be the trade deadline at 23-19-9. Dave, at this moment in time, where would you surmise the Flyers will be on that date? Will they be a team that is looking to add, stay put, or do you think by that time they will be out of the playoff race?
It's so difficult to tell right now, Mike. I mean, the fan bases, their hopes and dreams of the playoffs are living and dying day by day. I think they're 6 points out of a playoff spot now because Pittsburgh beat these Anaheim Ducks last night. But I don't think Ron Hextall knows what he's going to do quite yet. I mean, if they end up cutting into this lead, and they need a little bit of help to do it, don't get me wrong, they're going to have some of their teams in their division start losing some games. But if they end up gaining some ground, then all of a sudden buyers is a strong word for what Ron Hextall might be doing. But he might be looking to add a piece of offense where right now the Flyers don't have, a scoring winger or something. And I don't know where that player would go in the lineup, but whatever he does, he's not going to mortgage the future. He's made that very clear. He says if he picks up a new piece, it'll just be for the rest of the year, basically. It'll be a true rental. Yeah, a guy who comes in here, plays out the rest of the season, and then it probably won't return.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a salary guy or an older guy would be in the mix. But do you think that this Flyers team has hung around the playoff discussion longer than people thought?
I think that's probably fair to say. I mean, this team, where when you look at the projections at the beginning of the year, there have been a couple of things. I mean, there were some people who picked the Columbus Blue Jackets to win the division, and they've been in the basement of the league ever since the opening puck drop of the season. So I don't know that there were too many people that picked the Flyers to even make the playoffs, let alone go far. So the fact that they're still semi-relevant here speaks to them doing some things well. I think, personally, I know many people say it's a team game and one player doesn't make a huge difference. I really think things turned around for this team when they called up Shane Gossage there. They had trouble scoring. He's come in and been pretty clutch for them, especially in overtime. I really think they've been feeding off of this rookie defenseman.
Yeah, no doubt. And by the way, they play Anaheim tonight. Cam Fowler would be a guy that Ron Hextall could have on his radar there. And, if you're looking at Flyers, who are some guys that might be putting boxes together? Are there candidates to be dealt?
Well, I think that there's some guys that the Flyers would probably like to send somewhere else, but I don't think anybody's busting down doors for R.J. Umberger when the guy is making $4.5 million, $4.6 million, and is a healthy scratch right now. You might see a casualty on defense. Mark Streit is a guy who's going to play his 17th game tonight since returning from injury. He's a little bit up there in age, but he didn't come into the NHL until he was in his mid-20s, so there's not as much tread on his tires. He's a guy that can put the puck in the net, that can help a team's power play, and he's on the Flyers' second unit right now because of Gostisbehere and the way that he's playing. So I think that he's probably a candidate, but he also has another year left on his deal, so we'll see if that affects things at all.
Fifth straight starting goal for Mason tonight, as you wrote earlier in the week. This is something Mason wants. He sounds like he was a guy who wants to start to get in a little bit of a rhythm here down the stretch, so he'll start because Neuvirth is still hurt.
Yeah, he'll start because Neuvirth's hurt, but he's also supposed to be this team's starting goaltender. The issue with him, playing a fifth straight game, I mean, that's really not unheard of for an NHL starting goalie. There's guys like Braden Holtby, like Corey Schneider, who are starting, upwards of 60, 70 games a season. But Mason isn't exactly 100% right now. He's dealing with an injury. Watch him get up when he goes into the butterfly. He winces a little bit. It takes him an extra half a second or so to get up. I think that the surprise, if you want to call it that, is that he's playing through injury. Everybody kind of is to a certain extent at this time of year, but goalies and joints, that's not where you want them being hurt because they tend to have longer-term effects, and Mason's had knee troubles in the past, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with his health going forward. But Michael Neuvirth was on the ice for the Flyers this morning just by himself, taking some shots from a couple of assistant coaches. So that's a positive sign for them.
All right, Flyers and Ducks tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Starts at 7 o'clock. Dave G. Isaac, follow him for more notes on tonight's Flyers-Ducks game. Dave, take care, bro.